So in this class, we're actually going to go over how to do Postgres basics. I'm going to show you how to make a database. We're going to use a real example of something that you might actually set up a database for, which is going to be a car dealership. I'm going to show you how to set up tables where you can then put in data, and I'm going to show you how to select that data from those tables and how to build out the overall schema of a database inside of Postgres, which is one of the most popular, widely used database options that you can access. I'm also going to show you how to get into the documentation for Postgres and how to use that and reference that as well to build out your queries to set everything up. I'm going to show you how to install all this stuff, set it up, run it all the way out. And the overall project for this course is going to be just setting up a database that mimics this one, a car dealership, and we're going to build that out as I show you. So hope you stick along with the course. Definitely enjoy. What's up, everybody? Today we are going to get into a install of Postgres, and we are going to do this via brew. So if you get homebrew, right, you'll need to download and set up homebrew. All you're going to need to do is put in this command in your terminal over here, and once you do that, you'll install brew, and then you'll be able to install things with brew. Okay, so I've already done that, right? I've also already made a directory, just make dir sandbox, right? I just made a sandbox so that I can do this course in here. So once you have brew and once you have a directory or folder on your terminal set up, then you can go ahead and get into installing Postgres. So starting out, you should have some basic knowledge of how to navigate and use the terminal. So if you don't, you can refer to a course that I have on that gives you some basic commands. But starting out, what we're going to do is we're going to just go in here and we're going to fire off this command right here to install Postgres, right? So pretty easy. Brew install PostgreSQL. So I'm just going to type it out. PostgreSQL, right? And my computer is definitely not the newest and fastest, so it might take just a second. But once we get Postgres set up, we're in a good place to start diving into what we're actually going to do. And the whole time, I'm going to be referring to the direct Postgres documentation to kind of go over some of the things that we're going to do. So you can go to postgresql.org and use that to follow along, and that will help you get to everywhere you need to be, right? So you can install Postgres through different ways, but I chose to install it through brew. And right here, yeah, we have homebrew is updating. A good thing to do, actually, that I forgot to do is actually before you set up, do brew doctor and brew update, and that will just make sure that your homebrew is ready to go to install a package. Alright, so that's kind of what we ran into here. So that is what we got going on. So okay, so you see all this stuff just popped up on the screen. So wow, okay, cool. So that's what we're gonna do. So I already actually have Postgres installed on this machine, but what we're gonna do, just to show you, I'm just gonna brew reinstall. Okay, so there we go. So as we're just reinstalling it, just to reinforce the fact that these are the steps that we have to do. We don't need, if you don't have it installed already, you're not going to need to reinstall it, obviously, but you're just going to need to get that in there, and it'll take some time, and your terminal is roughly gonna look like this if you're using brew, right? So now that we have got this set up, let's dig into actually starting it up. So I do believe we just do pg start. Okay, so I didn't need to run pgstart because Postgres was already running in the background on my computer. So all I had to do was create a new database that I needed to access. So I just did create db test db, and then I just did PSQL and then the name of that DB, and what that does, it brings me in there, right? And I don't have anything in here right now. So this setup right here is just a basic, this just has some my other databases and it doesn't have anything else in there. So right now I don't have anything, so I've jumped in this database, don't have anything else. I'm just gonna bounce out, hit /q, and there you go. So that's a PSQL Postgres setup right there. So at this point in time, if you've done this stuff, you are set up with Postgres, you are good to go to start working with it. Alright, so in this video what we're going to do is we are going to make a database and we're going to make some tables. So I'm just going to start up with this command createDB, right, which will create a database with the name that we provided after the fact, right? So I'm going to create this database and we're going to call it car dealership. Now we're going to do that because we're actually going to make our database structure reflect that of a car dealership to kind of give you some semblance of like a real project. We don't just want to do like A and B. We want to like actually put some real content in there, some potentially real content in there. So now that I've made this database, I can do PSQL and I can go PSQL car dealership. Right? And then that'll actually put me into that database, right? Pretty cool, right? So there's a couple things I can do right now. I can just hit /h and I can get help, right? So this gives me all of the things that I can do where I'm in here. So these are things where I can create things, delete things, drop a database, drop a table, right? A lot of options. So what we're going to do specifically is we are going to create a table. So what we have here in the documentation is actually just a create table, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a table for the models, the makes and models that we actually have here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with the makes. So I'm going to say create table. I'm going to say makes. The car makes, right? So the syntax says we just throw some parentheses right there. And then what we do is we're going to specify the columns. So each of these will be like our columns. So what we're going to do for our columns is we're going to say, and I got these backward, make and model. We're going to actually go ahead and we're going to have an ID, a model name, and a quantity. Okay, so I'm just going to say ID, and then looking back at this, we just go ahead and put in an int or a varchar 80 or whatever type that we're going to have. So in this case, we're just going to want to put some text in for the name. So I'm just going to take varchar 80, and then we're going to specify the next one, which is going to be, actually, you know what, to make it a little bit cleaner, I'm just going to start ID up first, and that's actually going to be int. Alright, and then we're going to say the name, right? Actually, it is make, right? Yeah, make name. Make name, and that's going to be your varchar 80. And then we're going to say quantity, which is just going to be an int. Right? So let's see how to close this off. All we're going to do is just put a closing parenthesis, and always remember that when you're in Postgres and you're dropping your commands, make sure you have that semicolon at the end. We're going to hit enter. Alright, we just made that table, so I'm going to see /dt. Alright, so we can see that we now have a table called makes. So if I hit do, this is kind of a precursor. I could say select all or select asterisk from makes. Right? I don't have anything in there yet. But you can see we have made a table, and I'm the owner of it. And we are in this database, a car dealership, right? So that is essentially how you make a table. So let's go ahead and make a couple other tables because we have those all outlined out here. So let's get a model. So we're going to do the same thing that we did essentially. So I'm just going to hit up to go back into my history. Alright, so let's do create table models, right? And the models are just going to be, we're going to have an ID, a make name, and a quantity. So the ID is going to be an int, and then model name is going to be it's going to be bar chart 80. Oh, so I figured out what it is. So sometimes if you don't put in your semicolon, then it'll chain things together. So you have to be careful of that. So really all we want right here, takes a second, and it's kind of tricky when you're working on this, right? Just want to make sure that that is the only command that we're in there. So now if I /dt, then I can see I have two tables named makes and models. So just a little bit of a quick error that you might see whenever you're running this. Make sure that what I did right here is select all from makes, but I did not put the semicolon. So what it did is chained the next command in with that. So that's how you make a database and how you make a couple of tables, and we'll run through some more stuff in the next video.
Video we're just going to go into entering some data into our models table, and I'm just going to show you how we're just going to do a couple of entries in here. I'm just going to show you how that all works out. So I have a query pre-built right here. We're going to put in Tacoma inside of the array right here, and the notepad editor where I saved this changed my quotes, my single quotes, so that it would kind of mess up a little bit, but we're going to fix that. So we have this query. I'm just going to explain this real quick. We are going to insert into our table models, right? And then we're going to lay out the fields exactly the way that they fall. So ID is first, model name is second, quantity is third. And as you can see, the command right here follows that structure, right? And then correspondingly over here with the values, we're going to put the data in the same way. So the ID is going to be 2, the model name is going to be Tacoma, the quantity is going to be 15, the make ID is going to be 1, and then the array or the quota is going to be there. So the only thing that we don't have in this right now is like the model description. So we're just going to add that to this right here. So I'm just going to add in model description, right? Or that's models description, so that's not going to work. So I'm going to backspace that, model description, there you go. And then I'm just going to put a comma after my array is done right here. I'm just going to say single quotes, a really great truck, right? Let's see. So this should fire off and work. If it doesn't, we'll just look into what's going on. Yeah, so we got it to insert. All right, so we're going to select from all from models, and we're going to see that that is there now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make up a couple more of these, and I want you to follow along and just like practice doing a couple of inserts with this, because this is the manual way to insert data into a database. So ideally what you could do if you were just working inside of Postgres, is you can make a bunch of different queries like this, and you could put in all the values for every type of car that or truck or whatever your data set is, and run it like that. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go here, ID 3. Let's see, we're going to add, what's another one? Avalon. We'll say we have 30 of those. What's the make ID is still 1. And the array, we're going to say that maybe initially, like first quarter, we want to sell 30, so it's a little bit different. Maybe like third quarter, we want to sell 50, because that's like Avalon season for whatever reason. We'll go in here. I'll backtrack this. A great full size sedan. Right, and then yeah, so this should be good to go. Right, we'll fire that off, and we got an insert. Cool. So we'll just select from that. So we have our Avalon in there, right? So you see, we're starting to build out a database, right? So we actually have data in here that we can pull from and actually do something with.
We're going to go into our car dealership database. We're going to get in there, and we're in there. We're going to do /dt, and we're going to see the tables that we made. So we made one for makes, and we made one for models, and I'm actually just going to show you what we're going to do. So now inside of our makes, we actually have a make in there that I just put in. I'm going to show you how to put another one in. So I'm going to say select all from makes, right, semicolon, right? And we're going to see that we have a ID of 1 and a make name of Toyota and a quantity of 57 Toyotas at our car dealership. So what I'm actually going to do, this is what we're going to use to insert values into our table. So we're going to say insert into makes, and then we're going to specify the fields ID, make name, and quantity, which are the columns we have here. And then we're going to say values. We're going to have an ID of 1, value of Toyota will be the make name, and then 57 will be the quantity. So we're actually just going to run this back just a second. So I'm going to do a value of make 2, and I'm going to give this Honda. Alright, and then we're going to say that we have 20 Hondas. Alright, I'm going to close it off, semicolon, and I'm going to insert, and then I'm going to go, I'm just hitting up on my arrow keys just to search back to where I've got it, select all from makes, right? So now we have Toyota and Honda, right? So this method that I'm using to insert values into the table, you can do this in bulk in other processes, but this is the basic syntax of actually accomplishing that. So let's add a couple more things in there just to break this down all the way. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and type this all the way out. And I just want to show you, you've seen that I've been using all capitalized letters, all uppercase, like insert into, right, like that. Or, you know, you can also just say insert into, right? So these are either or, right? These words are reserved words that we're using syntactically to make these actions happen, so they can be uppercase or lowercase. It's good practice to use uppercase, but if you see me varying, that's because there's no actual difference. But insert into makes, I'm going to specify the fields, ID, make name, and make sure you're following along and you are trying this out yourself. Okay, now I'm going to hit enter, right? And so that gives us another line. So one thing that's valuable to notice with Postgres when we're actually inside the database and we're writing these lines is that when you hit enter, you haven't actually executed the line until you've put a semicolon at the end. So we hit enter, which is effectively just like hitting enter in a Word document. We've just gone to the next line so that we can make it a little bit cleaner when we're writing everything out. So when I type out values right here, this is all one statement. We haven't completed the statement yet. So I can say, I'm going to do this, 3 Chevy. Actually, I need to do single quote. Alright, and then we'll say we have 43 of those, right? And I can actually go ahead and fire this off right here, and then we'll see select all from makes, right? Make sure we put our semicolon in there, and then we'll see we have Toyota, Honda, Chevy. We have all of those things in there. So what we're gonna do next is let's go ahead and put some models in there. So select all from models, right? And we don't have anything, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna follow the same structure right here. We're gonna say insert into models. Let's see, what are the columns here? We got ID, right? Model name, not make name, and quantity, right? And then we're gonna hit enter on that, and we're gonna say values, and we're gonna say we'll go ahead and give us an ID of 1 because that's our first thing we're putting in here, and then the model name we'll say will be Camry, and we'll just say that we have 10 of those. And so actually what we've done right here is I accidentally forgot to put in the semicolon, so we haven't actually put it in there, so let me try that. Yep, so if you ever skip a line and you forgot to put that in there, just hit your semicolon on the next line and it'll append it on to the end there, and you can kind of see that that is what we just did. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to select, or to be getting good practice, select all from models. Right, and so we have Camry has 10, right? So that is how we want to do things. We want to insert values into our table. Alright, so in this video we're going to go over editing some of our existing database structure and entering some things, updating a few things. So we're going to do PSQL car dealership, hop right in here, and we're going to check our tables. And then we're going to select all from models, because that's the table that we're going to actually mess with, right? So we want a couple more fields of information in here. So we're going to add those in. We're going to show off a couple different ways to change that around. So starting off, what we're going to want to do is we're going to alter the table. We're going to add to the table. We're going to give a whole new column that's going to be quota, and we're also going to make one called description, and we're going to make those two fields and we're going to put them in there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in this command right here. So this is alter table, our table name, and we're going to add quota, which is going to be the name of the column row, and we're going to say that it wants to be an integer, a type array, right? So this is going to be an array of integers, so it's going to be an array of numbers. So essentially what it's going to end up looking at like is going to be something like this, right? So it'll be like, 10, 10, 10, and like 20. Right, and that's not a command, right? We're just going to straight up insert that, but that is what it's basically going to look like. And for the next thing that we're going to put in, we're going to go and we're going to do alter table models. Then we're going to add this description. That's going to be varchar. So that's just going to be that's the type of the input. That's what's going to be what goes into it. So if I just try to put a bunch of text into integer array, it's not going to work. And if I try to put an integer array into a random varchar, it's not. I don't think it's going to work. It might, probably not. So we're going to go ahead and hit back here. See what this looks like. So now we have more columns, right? So we're going to go and start putting some stuff in here. So actually, first off, let me just say, like, let's say that maybe we thought it through, and this description column isn't quite what we want it to be named. So we're going to change the name over to something else, and what we're going to call it we're going to call it model description, right? So this will come up. You're going to have to figure out, like, hey, how do I rename something? So
In this case, we're just going to alter the table again. Anytime you're changing something with the table, it's just going to be alter table. And we're going to rename column description to model description. So when we go back here and look at it, we can see it is now what we want it to be, right? Alright, so let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and add in some values for that Camry, right? So we're going to kind of change this right here. So we're going to change this to equal Camry. That's what our model name is going to be. And the description is going to be, it's a really great car. Alright, so you're going to update models, and we're going to set the description to this value right here, where the model name equals that, right? And actually, we need to make sure. Alright, so after changing around the query, I realized that I was trying to put in for description when we did change the name to model description. So even when you're staring right at it, sometimes it's hard to pay attention. So you have to, for this query, we're updating the models and we're setting the model description to parentheses single quotes a really great car, where the model name equals Camry. And so that's where we're able to update based off of where something equals something. So in like the converse of this, we can go in, we can change the quantity with this, right? So I'm going to set like the quantity equals, and we'll say instead of 150, you'll say equals 100, right? We'll make sure we get rid of that. Get rid of that extra space. Right, we update that. And then when we select from models, we change our quantity right there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put in this quota. Right? So in this one, we're going to go ahead and I'll change this over because I haven't put the Tacoma in yet. I'm going to say update this table, set the quota to equal this array. And we're going to do like per quarter. So it'll be like 10, 10, 10, and the last quarter will be like 20. And these would be our sales goals, if you will, or quotas of what we have to sell. And let's say where the model name equals Camry. Alright, so what we've managed to do here is finally get the quota inserted. For a second there, it didn't want to play ball with the single quotes or the double quotes, so I had to mess with those a little bit. And these are some of the things that you'll find with the syntax is very particular. So sometimes when you're writing your queries, I write them ahead of time and then I cut and paste them in and then tweak them as I need to, so I don't have to re-input the entire query every single time.
This video we are going to look at grabbing stuff from our tables when certain conditions are met, like we can access something by its ID or by its name value. If it matches a certain value, we can grab that. We're also going to alter the table and we're going to add a new column to said table. So we're in our database, we've got our makes and our models for our car dealership database, and what we're going to do starting out is I'm going to go and say select select all from makes. And now that I've got that, I'm going to say select all from makes where make name equals Chevy. And then that's all I get back, right? So this is pretty cool and you can use it a lot of ways. So you can say select all from this table where this matches something from another table. You can, the possibilities are endless when you're working with where. I can also do select ID from makes. and I'll just get back the IDs. I can say select make name from makes, right? And this is if I just want to get only those items, right? So what we're going to do with our database structure is right now we have our makes and our models, and if I say select all from makes, I say select all from models, then we're going to see that although all of the makes and models have their own ID, their own names, and their own quantity, what we don't have is any association between these two tables. So we don't have something like where we can associate Camry with Toyota. So what we would want to do is then we would make it so that the Camry has like a make ID that's associated with the other table, and that make ID would match the ID in the makes that is Toyota's ID, so that we can match them up, so that we can call for all of the Toyota models, right? So what we're going to do when we want to actually get this is we're going to say alter table, right? So that just means we're going to change something about a table, and so the table is going to be models, right? So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go in here and we're going to say, let me find the command, yeah, add column, right? So we're going to actually add the column, go way back and take down here, we're going to add a whole new column to this, and we're going to give it a name, and we're just going to say this will be make ID, and then we're going to specify what data type this is. In this case it's going to be an integer, so we're just going to put that in there, and then we're going to say select all from models, and then we'll see that this has an empty make ID. So what we're going to do moving forward is we're going to want to give that a we're going to want to give Camry a make ID. So we're going to say insert into models, and I'm going to say this is going to be a little bit of a mix-up. So we're going to say insert into models where, and we know where the model name is equal to Camry. What we need to be looking for is something like this. We need to update our table models and set the existing make ID, which was 0 because we hadn't put anything in there for that, to 1 where the model name equals Camry. So this is just a different usage of commands than what we thought. So yeah, I can change this to 21, right? I'm going to fire this off, and then we'll select all from models, and we'll see that the make ID is 21, but we want it to actually be just 1, so that the make ID and the actual make ID are the same. So let's go ahead and run that out right now. I'm going to do a whole new command set. Just put in update models set make ID equals 1 where model name equals. And if we had multiple different, like we had like Camry, 4Runner, Corolla, Avalon, like all those different things, we could put in multiple statements to update all of those so that the make ID was set. So this is just something to show that like when you set up your database, you want to think through the whole entire data structure so that you're associating things properly for the usage that you're going to have. Because in this case on our website, we're going to want to associate data sets where we have IDs that match. So I'm going to select all from makes. Alright, so our ID here for Toyota is the same as our make ID inside of the model right here. So cool, so we've made an association there, and we've covered update, set, right? We've updated, this is basically a conditional update. And also we altered the table, we added in a whole new column, and yeah, there we go. So good stuff. I'll see you in the next video.